Well, 2026 will mark 10 years since Leicester's famous Premier League title win. Rob, do you think there's any chance now of a similar underdog story, or is the money in that decade changed so much that it's impossible?
You're obviously tempted to say, no, it can't ever happen again, but it should never have happened when it did in the first place. So that it has happened, and at 10 years is obviously a long time, and lots has changed in football, particularly the amount of money that's pumped into it. But you do wonder whether there would be a season where everything would fall into place for a team. Maybe not like Leicester, who just survived relegation and then went all the way through and won it. But maybe a team that had finished sort of 10th, 11th, 12th the previous season could maybe take advantage of not having European football, getting their recruitment just right. Maybe they get a couple of players in who surprise the club and the manager a little bit. And you do have that kind of once in a lifetime season, and someone else can do it. I mean, just going back to Leicester, obviously United would have felt at the time that they should have won it. Arsenal in particular felt that they should have won it. Tottenham as well. Again, looking back, probably will think that they should have won it. But all these things kind of happened, fell into place for Leicester. They had a fantastic recruitment with the likes of Mahrez and Kante and Vardy scoring goals, having signed from initially from Fleetwood and non-league. You got Claudio Ranieri, who kind of galvanizes the entire group, and I just think sometimes these things fall into place and miracles happen. So I would be loath to say that it could never happen again. Obviously, it's not likely. I can't see it happening this season or anytime soon. But I just think Leicester have proved in that season that you never ever know. And that if Leicester can do it, then I do think possibly that maybe another team could do it. Because I actually don't think the gap between, maybe the top 10, 11, 12 teams in the Premier League is maybe as big as it perhaps was 10 years ago when Leicester did it.
Do you think, though, that maybe the underdog story is changed a little bit? That actually, I don't mean any disrespect to these particular clubs because they're massive institutions in their own right, but in the Premier League context, an underdog story is almost Aston Villa winning the league.
Yeah.
Or Newcastle winning the league. And I know obviously Newcastle have got huge financial backing and, just sort of separate that side of it. But just in terms of, wage bills and the PSR rules that essentially limit the kind of money that those clubs can spend comparable to the sort of more established serial winners, if you like. It sort of feels to me that, I don't know why Aston Villa's coming to my head, but it feels like an Aston Villa going to win the title, or a Nottingham Forest winning the league, when they were in Champions League places for so long last season. Nottingham Forest is probably more of a genuine underdog story again, although obviously another club with absolutely fantastic history. But in a Premier League context, do you not think that, say Aston Villa won the league or Newcastle won the league, it would have the same sort of, maybe not the same effect, but a similar feel to it because of just in terms of the sheer level of surprise of it?
I think so. I mean, I think that's probably where the Premier League is right now. I mean, you mentioned Forest there. I think Forest's season last season is a great example of how tough the Premier League is, because Forest have the season of their lives, essentially. Again, get a lot of their recruitment right, galvanised by Nuno. They have some fantastic results against massive teams, beat Liverpool, the champions, at Anfield. And despite of all that, they don't even finish. They don't win it, obviously, but they don't even finish in the top four. What did they finish? 7th in the end, and they're only in the Europa League because of what's happened to Crystal Palace. And I think that's, in a way, is what Forest did last season is fantastic, because for a lot of the season it was this fantastic story about an underdog who can go and challenge the elite, haven't spent the same money but can go and kind of compete toe to toe. But also it's a little bit demoralizing in my eyes, in that all of this stuff for Forest can go right. And I'm not suggesting they're a small club, because obviously they're European champions in their history and a massive club in their own right. But in terms of last season are an underdog, and so much goes right. They have Chris Wood banging in goals that no one really expected, at a rate certainly that no one expected. Hudson-Odoi, Elanga on either side. This, loads of players having fantastic seasons, but yet don't really get anywhere near winning it, don't even finish in the top 4, don't qualify for the Champions League and have to settle for 7th. Now, again, that is a terrific achievement for Forest, but I think that just shows how tough the Premier League is. And you're right, when you look at clubs who will have more lofty ambitions than Forest, the likes of Villa, Newcastle, it'd be interesting to see what kind of ambitions they have I know what their fans will say, but internally what they're telling their managers about what their expectations are. Because, I mean, if Newcastle were to win the league or Villa were to win the league, it probably would feel like a Leicester, which is crazy, really, because they're massive clubs in their own right. They spend an awful lot of money on recruitment, but that's just how tough the Premier League is, particularly when you've got, I don't want to, well, it's not top 6 anymore, is it? But you've got a kind of a breakaway group of Liverpool, Man City and Arsenal who are able almost to do whatever they want in the transfer market.
I mean, maybe Crystal Palace winning the FA Cup is the biggest underdog story we can hope for in 2025. But I mean, we touched on Newcastle just to sort of wrap up some of the other teams. I mean, I was in Singapore when Newcastle arrived there for the start of their pre-season, and Eddie Howe's first press conference was dominated entirely by Alexander Isak, and that has only continued, and they've had issue after issue in trying to get players over the line. Ekitike turned them down. Sesko obviously turned them down. There's no sporting director. Do you fear a little bit for Eddie Howe there this season? Because having threatened to be another season where they could really kick on, they've only got Elanga in really as a major summer signing, and they've got so much they need to do, and it already feels as though they're running out of time.
I don't fear for him necessarily. I fear for Newcastle a little bit. I think that what Eddie Howe's achieved there probably cements his status at that club. So I don't think there's any danger that even if they were kind of 10th in January, whether the club would turn around and say, actually, you're not the guy for us, or the fans would turn on him. I don't think that's going to happen. What I would be worried about from Newcastle's point of view, whether Eddie Howe, who takes the club all the way through this kind of development, he gets them in the Champions League, he wins that first trophy for God knows how long, and now he's at this point where he thinks, right, I really want to kick on and kind of establish ourselves as a top 4 side. Maybe eventually we do get close to winning the Premier League, and the window, the recruitment in that window kind of just the ground falls away from underneath him almost. And that's how precarious these teams will find it. If we separate the likes of Arsenal, Liverpool and City, perhaps Man United probably, because they can, again, spend what they want. For other clubs, it can be quite dangerous. And if you have a couple of bad windows, and I'm not suggesting that one window is, you'd need 1, 2, 3 bad windows back to back to back. You can find yourself going from kind of 4th, 5th to 13th, 14th. And I think Leicester are a perfect example of that. Leicester win the league in 2016. They build all the way up, whereas they're kind of on the edge more often than not than qualify for the Champions League. They win the FA Cup. Then they have a few bad windows, and all of a sudden they're down the bottom, and then they get relegated. Now, I'm not suggesting that Newcastle are going to get relegated. I just don't think the gap between the top sides and the bottom sides in the Premier League, or say from 4th to 17th, is that big. And you can find yourself slipping down that league really, really quickly. And do I think it'll happen to Newcastle this year? Probably not. But if they were to start the season with the squad that they've got, and Isak moves and goes, and they can't find an adequate replacement, then it is entirely possible that they would sort of be 10th, 11th by January, and Eddie Howe will be turning around and saying, well, why you've not helped me out. I've kind of held up my end of the bargain. You've not helped me out. So I'm going to go and find the support elsewhere. And I think that's the biggest worry from Newcastle's point of view.
Well, let's just finish with some predictions then. Title winners, top 4 in your own time.
Can see the stick that I'm going to get already, but I can't look beyond Liverpool for the Premier League title. I think defending champions and the signings they've made on paper look fantastic. I think City will finish 2nd, Arsenal 3rd, Chelsea 4th, United 5th, Tottenham 6th. In terms of relegation, I think that Sunderland and and Burnley have got an awful lot to do to stay up. I think the one team that maybe has got an advantage in that is Leeds United, because if you can galvanise Ellen Road and get the crowd behind you, it's a really, really tough place to play. I think they might have quite a decent home record and stay up. Obviously, all of those will be completely wrong, so disregard as you.
Favourite is just the most fun part of the job, isn't it? To try and predict this and enjoy the blowback in 10 months. I'm slightly disrespectful to the Stadium of Light there, Sunderland. I feel like that's a particularly different.
I don't think they've done enough. I don't think they were expecting to come up. I think that's going to be really tough for them to stay up.
If you're talking about Ellen Road being a difficult place to go, I think it's decent noise that can be made at the Stadium of Light.
Have you got family members?
No, not at all. I've been there, and it's a difficult place to go. I think a lot of teams will find it tough. Granit Xhaka is there, midfield stalwart. No, my prediction for the title is quite similar, really. I think Liverpool will win it. I've got Arsenal second, City third, and Chelsea fourth. Then below that, you're asking then, can Man United, Newcastle, Villa, Tottenham sort of defy the current sort of pessimism around those clubs to suddenly kind of kick on? You sort of feel as though if United managed to get a midfielder and they got Donnarumma, you would say, okay, wow, that is one heck of a window. I think if they contingent on those two things happening, I will put them fifth. So I look forward to this being replayed next. Let's be honest, they're going to be wrong by about November, right? I was going to say May, but they'll be all completely out of date and impossible to achieve by probably November, December time. So we can replay it all then and be mocked rightfully and ruefully.
Well, remember to tag at James Olley into all your criticism of his predictions that are quite clearly going to be awful, particularly when Sunderland are bottom of the league after 10 games. That's all for this week. Thanks for joining us. We'll be back next week. See you soon.